Name's Roger Boaty. Mr. George Roger Boaty.
And that's that. Good evening, my loves, and a warm welcome to Windy Bottom here in the Peak District, and a warm welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Thank you so much for joining me. It absolutely warms the heart of my bottom to be here amongst you. And tonight, my loves, tonight is going to be all about you. I am not going to go off on a rant. I'm not going to go off in 1,000 different directions. It's all about you. It's absolute. The next hour, my darlings, is yours to do with as you wish. I shall merely be a conduit for your thoughts, your observations, your questions, your wonderings, your murmurings, your burps, or whatever it is you choose to thrust out there in the community between, well, all the way up to midnight, my darlings. I'm going to keep right on top of the comments. I am going to be assiduous. Yes, I certainly am. And to that end, I shall now welcome those who have blessed us with their presence. I'll just have a slurp of this first. How are you, darlings? Let me know. Cheers. Bottoms up. You're very good health. Excellent. Now then, starting at the top as we mean to go on, with a very carefully spelt out vertical buttocks, we have underscore, the lovely Matt. Welcome to the lovely Matt. We have Jimmy Quinn. Good evening, Jimmy. Lovely to have you with us. We have Project MGTF, known and loved by us all as Simon. Hello, mate. Good evening. Thank you for being here. We have Simone. Oh, that's nice, isn't it, Simone? Oh, shit, it's Boaty. Lovely. I love you too. Anyway, Simone is here in our midst, and that's wonderful. Chaz Brown is here. Oh, God, you do make me laugh, Chaz. The first time you stuck that in one of the comments on the videos, I damn near wet myself. And your comment tonight was well up there as well, absolute class. And he chimes in, yo, Boaty, God save the king, sir. Yes. Oh, dear. Behave, everyone, says Simone. Oh, hello, we're talking about MGBs. I'm very happy to talk or listen, as it's all about you tonight. We could talk about MGBs all day long, couldn't we? I quite like an MGB. I think an MGB is probably the most comfortable driving position that I've ever encountered. I feel very much at home in an MGB, and I don't mind if it's chrome or rubber bumpered, and I don't mind if it's a BGT or a Roadster. I'm equally comfortable in both. I didn't even mind the dreadful stripy deck chair interior phase they went through in the late 70s and early 80s. Oh dear. And Jimmy Quinn would rather have the V8 BGT than the 1.8. Okay. What about the MGC, Jimmy? Would you fancy an MGC with the 3-litre lump? They were a car that was flawed from day one. Now, the original MGB, the BGT, and the Roadster had, of course, a 1.8 lump in it that was reasonably light, and it made for a nicely balanced car. Now, when they shoehorned the Buick V8 into it, again, that's an all aluminium V8, so it's not actually that heavy for a relatively big old lump. And the car was still well balanced. But with the MGC, they put the 3-litre Austin Westminster lump in, and that threw the car way out of balance. It became incredibly nose heavy. the balance was something like 62-38 to the front. And that was why they, unless they were fettled in some way, they handled like an absolute bag of nails, which is very unfortunate in an MG. If I had to pick one of the best handling cars for its time, of all time, I would actually go for an MGA. That had the most secure and progressive handling of any car that I can remember driving. Anyway, Rover Joe is here. Wonderful. Hello to you, sir. Thanks for bringing back the George Roger Boaty jingle. Absolutely my pleasure, Chaz. Simon says, Boaty, I've always said you're a conduit, or something similar anyway. Many people say that, Simon. I'm well known as being a massive cult. Many people say that. That Boaty, what a cult, they say. I'm very flattered. Steve Colg is here, wonderful. Pingu Concord offers buttocks to McBoaty. Hello. How are you, Pingu? Tell me about the Discovery. I saw the Discovery. I'd like to know about that. I only had a quick glimpse at it. It's in that nice shade of light green, isn't it? What's wrong with it? How much of a wreck is it? Is it a 1 or a 2? And I'll hazard a guess that it's a TDI. And what are your plans for it? Because you can talk to me about that now, because I'm a Land Rover dude. I've got a Land Rover again. Some would say it's not a proper one, but we don't need to listen to them, do we? Liz is here. Hello. Hello, everyone at Alia, extending the Latin there. Pingu says, do you want to sell me Wetleg yet? I have a parking spot available. No, Pingu. No, I'm going to at least get the summer out of Wetleg. I'm tempted to say I'd be loath to part with her at any point, but who knows what will happen after the summer. To be honest, given recent changes of plan and new projects, you'd have more chance of getting a mix on Shison than you would Wetleg at the moment. Simone says, I would like an MGB or an MG TF LE500. Nitro 2202 is with us and says, all-encompassingly, salutations all. And salutations to you. Get a TF while they're cheap, says Simon. How cheap? Good question. Oh, hello. Simon started fixing Henrietta's rear wing. Rear wing? I can't... Oh, yeah. Near side rear, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, good on you if you can do that. I keep forgetting that you're one of these clever people who can actually do things like mustard. And again, that's why I was happy for you to have her, because you would do the things what I could not. Have you sorted the heater yet? Or is that going to be left until next winter? Right. MG... Oh, hello. Rover Joe did his first day of a welding course last night. How did that go? Again, that's... I'm stupidly impressed by people who are practical and either can or are willing to try to turn their hand to something, because I'm not. Although I am kind of getting some odd urges in my old age to try doing things, but I'll try and resist them. I have got my hands dirty again today, my love. Well, I say dirty. I've continued the shinification of Shison. Yes, I have. So it was a bit grim and grotty earlier on, but then the sun came out in the afternoon, and quite frankly, I felt the urge to get outside so that sun could shine on my upturned rosy apple cheeks. So get out there, I did. and I gave Shison a swill off, and then I dried them with a drying towel thingamy. And then I polished the bonnet with some SRP, and then I polished all that off, and then I applied a layer of ceramic, and then I buffed down all of the stuff that I owl trolloped yesterday, and got that all settled and looking absolutely lovely. And then I gelled up all of the tyres. And when I say all of the tyres, I mean 3 of them, because I couldn't be asked to do the last one. But I will. And then I got really annoyed because when you know where I live, right? I'm assuming that you've all seen at least one video, so you've got an idea of where I live. Ironically, I kind of live in the arse end of nowhere, but I also live within spitting distance of the one and only main road that goes across the tops of the moors, and is quite a busy road. And as a result, any car that's parked in pole position out there, so Shison was spotless, and I mean spotless. And an hour and a half later, when I went out to go to work, he was covered in a fine layer of traffic dust, which is really annoying. Now, the others that are down the lane a bit by the village hall, they don't suffer to the same extent. And neither does Wetleg, or whoever is parked on my laney, private, drivey, gardeny bit. Presumably because there are cottages providing a protective barrier. But poor old Shison, it's really annoying to wash a car and then an hour and a half later it's all gritty. Dear me. Anyway, where did I get to? Right, we're talking about, can you find a bargain MGF or TF? Are there still bargains to be had? I think that Fs and TFs, I think they are offering ridiculous value at the moment. I mean, you think about it. You can go out there and you can buy a half decent, certainly relatively roadworthy and MOT'd, F or TF for £1,000. And that is a nonsensical bargain. I mean, obviously you can pay more, should you wish to. But, you know, with a bit of care and a bit of effort, you could easily lay your hands on an F or TF for £1,000 or even under £1,000. And what else can you buy of that nature? I mean, you can't buy much for £1,000 these days of any nature. But you're talking about a mid-engined, rear-wheel drive sports car. Convertible mid-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car. As I called them, thanks to one of my viewers, I nicked this, the Longbridge Lamborghini. And it is, if any of you have driven a Lambo, or certainly a Lambo from the 80s or early 90s, stupid as it sounds, the experience is very much replicated. I don't know what a TF is like, but the experience is very much replicated in an MGF, albeit, you know, on a smaller scale. But I mean, what an incredible bargain. £1,000 gets you a mid-engine convertible sports car. Amazing. Yeah, okay. They've got some inherent flaws and some inherent problems, but, you know, considering how much under budget they are compared to anything vaguely similar, then you should have money in hand to what the hell's that? Cheeky bugger. A bloody spider has just abseiled directly down onto the dining table, and look, he's crawling about there as if he owns the bloody place. Cheeky sod. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Oh, he's still there. There you go. I've eaten him. That'll teach the bugger. Cheeky sod. Could have landed right in my pasta. Ah, that's nice. GPS OMG is with us and says, good evening, Mr. Curryman. How are you diddling? I'm diddling pretty well, GPS. It's kind of you to ask. And how are you? And if you're a little bit late to the party, GPS, then tonight's live stream is all about you guys. I am just following your lead. I am not going to go off on one of my crazy doings. I'm not going to read you a filthy story. I'm just going to sit here like a nice host and discuss whatever you would like to discuss. And I'll top my wine up. And I might tell you about my supper that I'm really looking forward to. Got a bit of a first tonight. Bit of a kind of a fusion dish. We've got Nepalese noodles, kind of a Nepalese chow mein, if you can call it that, or the chow mein, if you didn't realise. Chow mein simply means fried noodles in Mandarin, which is a weird language. Have any of you ever tried speaking Mandarin or tried learning it? And it's something that's inherently flawed. Now, Mandarin in Mandarin isn't Mandarin. Mandarin in Mandarin is Pohantua, and that literally translates as the common language. And the idea was, if you didn't realise, by the way, China is vast, and I do mean vast. So, obviously in such a vast country, there would have been many relatively individual languages. And the idea of Pohantua, the common language, was that it would be a common language that the entirety of China would speak. And then there would be regional variations in language in the various different regions, or cantons, as they're called. And I might have mentioned this before, but it kind of hasn't turned out like that. Depending on where you are in China, you'll speak a version of Mandarin that is massively podgered by your own regional language. So when I first tried to learn Mandarin, it was Leiyun who was teaching me, and she was from Beijing. And then the second time I tried to learn, it was Ling Li who was teaching me, and she was from Shanghai. And it was like learning two completely different languages. Anyway, I've forgotten most of it now. So I suppose it doesn't really matter. Very difficult language because it's atonal. So the same words can have three different meanings depending on the tone. So, three different things. Same noise, different tone, different meanings. So you can say the most appalling things if you haven't got a musical ear. If you sing flat, and so you're likely to speak flat, you could say something awful without meaning to. All I can remember are the very basics. I can count. I can offer the usual pleasantries. I can introduce myself. And what's the first phrase you learn in a foreign language when you're visiting, spending time in, or living in a foreign country? Now, this says a lot about me and my wild drinking days. That the first phrase I learned in any language wasn't hello, wasn't how are you, wasn't could you tell me how to get to the hotel/train station, where is there a taxi? The first phrase I learned, and this is genuine, I'm not joking, was, please give me vodka and tonic and continue to serve me vodka and tonic until such time as I fall on the floor. I remember learning that in Ukraine. Vodka s tonicum spasibo. I can't remember the rest of it. But anyway, there we are. Right, let's get back to... I'm on it. I am on it today. I'm all over these comments. It's all about you. Right, the heater is on the list. Jolly good. Well, there's no rush now, is there? We're coming into summer, and unless it's buggered up in the last couple of months, then the aircon was fully operative, so you should be set for summer. Oh dear, sorry to hear this, Simone. Simone of Hooked on Classic says, I'm going to be miserable tomorrow. Why is that, my lovely? Tell us. Tell us. As I always say, a trouble shared is a trouble doubled. I think that's what I always say. The welding was good, says Rover Joe. Didn't do MIG yet, but we started off with the old-fashioned gas welding. No idea what that means, but sounds very impressive. How's life, asks Matt. It's okay. It's okay. Life is going on. Spring is kind of springing. If not all of us, are coming out of hibernation. It's all good. There's food, there's wine, there's women. It's a wonderful life, really. Right. Oh, okay. This is interesting, Simone. Being single, does it? Should be fine by Friday. What day is there a particular reason why you're going to be miserable tomorrow because you're single, Simone? But you'll be okay with by Friday. Is it a memorable date or something, an anniversary of something or other, or is it just that being single gets you down occasionally? I'd like to talk about that, but I reckon, because obviously it's a subject that I am interested in and well versed in, because obviously I run the Singles Network. But I'm wary of talking about it because I recognise that not all of you, in fact probably hardly any of you that are watching, are actually single. So I very much doubt that it would be a subject that you were particularly interested in or wish to discuss. But there's absolutely no question that being single in, if I can put it that way, the wrong way, it can affect your emotional well-being, your mental health, your physical health, everything on a day-to-day basis. It can even affect your future adversely by... Are you a little bit blurred there? Would you like a wipe? I think you might need a wipe. Excuse me. It's this hole, isn't it? As the bishop said to the actress. Ah, I think that might be a little better, actually. That was a job well done, wasn't it? Oh, somebody called Linda Tommy has just sent me a friend's request. No idea. Have I put you on the wonk? Oh, that's annoying. You weren't on the wonk, but I think you are now. I will gently unwonk you, darlings. Yeah, that'll do. I suppose we could include being single in one of our discussions about mental health, full stop, couldn't we? Trisha Alderman is with us. Wonderful. Hello, Trisha. How are you and your other half? Hope you're doing well. Hey, do you go to the Winking Man a lot? What? No idea. Wish I had a grand, says Simone. My 75 was 250 quid. Yeah, so was mine, Simone. And yeah, I wish I had a grand too, but hey ho. We struggle on, don't we? And I suppose we should be grateful for what we've got. I mean, you've got the 75, you've got the wonderful TC, and you've got an amazing career as a broadcaster ahead of you, if the last month or so is anything to judge by, when you have kind of become the darling of the motoring YouTube community. Simone is very much the person most in demand. You should hire yourself out. You should get all lovey and whenever anybody's putting a meet on, say, darling, I'd love to attend. If I could just give you my my requirements, I'd need you to cover expenses. And here's my, what do you call that list that celebrities give when they're appearing somewhere? What's it called? And it's a list of all, whatever they want, you know, a bottle of champagne and some jelly babies. Oh, controversial. Jimmy Quinn would rather have an MR2 than an MGF. Or is that controversial? I suppose it isn't really. They're relatively direct comparisons depending on the age. No, I'm trying to think back. Now, I'm no expert and I've probably forgotten, but I think both the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 MR2s they were only T-bars, weren't they? They weren't full convertibles. And the Mark 1 was the super square angular thing. And then the Mark 2 was actually a very attractive car and very rounded. And I used to do a really brisk trade in those Mark 2s, if that's what they were called. I would buy every single one that I could get my hands on, as long as they were imported and automatic. Because like the Unos, automatics were not available in the UK versions. But Japanese imports, most of them were, well, most of the Japanese cars were automatic. And at that time, you tried getting any sort of relatively small automatic wasn't easy. And the idea of an automatic small sports car was just impossible. So I literally had a constant waiting list for automatic MR2s. And on a kind of similar subject, I remember being outraged when I first encountered a diesel convertible. It was an Audi. And I thought, what the actual fuck? That is so wrong. A diesel convertible. Dear God. I don't think it was automatic, which would have made it even worse in my eyes back then. But, oh well, how things change. Oh, Simon would also rather have an MR2. Oh, okay. Hey up, Boaty, it's Ujuj. Uj. Do me a favour, Uj. When you get 5 minutes or even 1 minute, have a look at my most recent video. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Just watch the last minute of it and let me know what you think of the accent. Tell me if you consider that to be an authentic accent or not. Because those who don't know, Ujuj, or Uj, or Uj, oh God, I just got Bessie Beige. I wonder if that's still a thing. Bessie Beige used to be a massive thing in Paris in the, God, when would it have been? Late 80s? And Bessie Beige was bon chic, bon jambe, I think. And it was like a dress code for the Parisian chic. And it showed whether you were in the in crowd or not. And if you were not demonstrably Bessie Beige, then you were just kind of outcast from the beautiful people. But even worse, if you were trying to dress Bessie Beige, but you got it wrong, then you just became an absolute social leper. It was, I was spending a bit of time in Paris around the time, and as you can probably guess, I couldn't give a fly. Well, I think it was only for, well, no, it wasn't just for women, it was men as well, but I couldn't give a raving arse about it. I've never been fashionable in terms of clothing, or anything else for that matter. Anyway, I was saying, for those who don't know, Uge is otherwise known as Mrs. Project MGTF, although she is, and I have met her, very much a person in her own right. And she is your actual French. And that's why I asked her to watch the last minute of the video. Anyway, oh, Pingu's got disco news. Here we go. Right, it's a Disco 1 facelift, 300 TDI. Hasn't been driven since last summer, so knackered battery and brakes. Not the end of the world. Plus, most likely has some characterful rot to deal with. Oh, not a done deal yet, as the seller seems a bit tomato. Can't see that. Well, the seller's a bit something or other anyway. Has it got an MOT, Pingu? We'll guess not. Okay. Is it? What's the? Oh well, we can't ask you how much it is, can we? That's intrusive. We're not entitled to that information. But Mustard and I have had an ongoing debate since I bought Boo. And I said that my next step on the Land Rover ladder, but I'd have to have a lot more money to take it because they're an absolute money pit, would be about the same age as Boo, but a Disco 3 HSE. And Mustard said, oh, you don't want one of those. The Disco 2 is the one to have. And I argued black and blue that he was wrong, because I always do whatever he says. If he says that today's Tuesday, I'll tell him he's wrong. That's the kind of relationship we have. But he's actually got me thinking now, and I never had a Disco 2. I had a Disco 1, an early one. And I'm wondering now that I'm enjoying the minor agricultural type charm of Boo, whether I would actually love a Disco 2 and actually prefer it to the kind of semi-sophistication of a Disco 3. If anybody's got a Disco 2 and you'd be willing to let me drive it, please give me a shout, because I'd like to answer my own question. The first foreign phrase that Cheeseburger learns is Quattro San Miguel. Okay, that tells us what we need to know. Oh, a Toyota itch that needs scratching. Okay. How do we feel about Toyotas, and what Toyotas have we owned? Go on, let's have a Toyota chat. It's all about you. You've mentioned Toyotas. Let's go there. Now, I haven't owned many Toyotas, I don't think. In fact, I've owned very few. Let's think about it. Right, the only Toyotas I've owned would be... Right, I've never personally owned an MR2. Sold hundreds of the bloody things. Never personally owned one. What have I owned? Toyota. God. Oh, no. Oh, right, yeah, Supras. I've had a few Supras. I've had a UK Mark 1 turbo. I had an imported Mark 1, and I think it was a twin turbo. And that was a very impressive thing. That was in pearlescent white with full burgundy leather, seats, dash, headline in the lot, and a full digital Knight Rider dash. And I can even tell you what car that replaced. That replaced a 2.8 injection Capri. And I bought that Supra, and I was quite the lad about town at the time in that Supra, and it was bloody quick. And then I had a Mark II, I think they were called Mark IIs, you know what I mean, the curvaceous one, kind of 95, 96. I had a UK twin turbo one of those, and then I had another UK one of those, but with the removable Targa roof panel things. that I kind of wish I still had. I mean, I know they're old now, but I remember arguing at the time and since in various videos that the Mark II twin turbo Supra automatic, I reckon in real terms that was one of the quickest cars on the road, because a complete idiot could drive it. It didn't have any extreme handling characteristics. It was a perfectly usable everyday car, because unless you really annoyed it by giving the throttle a good prod, it would just tickle along to the shops without any problem at all. Anyway, so those are the only Toyotas I've had, unless you count Lexus, luxury export to the United States, which was and is of course the prestige arm of Toyota. And in Lexuses, I've had, oh God, I've had a right few LS400s and LS430, 2 RXs, one UK, one import. I've had, and SCs, of course. I've had about 4 SCs. I've never had the 2.5 litre twin turbo. But I've had the straight 4 litre V8, I've had the supercharged 4 litre V8, and yeah, and back to your comments. It's all about you, innit? You started it, you were talking about Toyotas. First phrase of Simon's was, 1 chicken and chips, please. And did you do the full British thing? And if they said, okay, just go, 1 chicken, and just do the British thing, speak louder. Sausage, egg and chips. Oh dear. Ah, okay. I'm liking the new thumbnail picture for the live. I'm experimenting a bit with thumbnails, but if you like that one, thank you. That's good feedback. That's good community feedback, and I shall take that on board. Oh, okay. No, you're not single, Simon. There's no apparently about it. You're definitely not single. Simone says, oh, right, okay. Yeah, 16 years on the... We're talking about being single again, and Simone's been on her own for 16 years. Yeah, don't know what to say about that, because I'm not sure how I would react. I'm still at the phase of being single at the moment that I'm absolutely loving it. But then there are gradations of being single as well, isn't there? There's being single and completely alone, which I'm not, or there's being single as in you're not in a relationship, but you have friends. So I don't know. I mean, 16 years of being entirely alone, I guess. Well, it would either really grind you down, or I suppose you'd at worst get used to it, or at best embrace it. I don't know. I mean, maybe I've never been single long enough, but I've never actually got tired or bored or bored of or unhappy with being single. I've certainly been unhappy in relationships. God knows I have, but I've never been unhappy being single, and I've never been desperate to get into a relationship. In fact, most of my relationships start by accident rather than design. Glad you're feeling better, Rajudge. Oh, okay, Pingu. Says, Boaty, I will happily wait for Wetleg until after the summer. She sounds hot. She's a little minx is what she is. She's a little minx. She's, Well, you've heard her. You know what she's like. But yeah, we'll we'll see what happens after summer. More cats is the answer. Oh God, no. More cats isn't the answer. Jimmy Quinn says, I wish I had a grand. Well, Jimmy, eat like the rest of us do instead of the exalted diet that you exist on, and you would have a bloody grand. You've probably got 100 grand tucked away in your underpant drawer or wherever it is you hide your cash and keep finding it when you've forgotten it. General Cheeseburger says, I actually prefer my own company. We're all different. I do plenty of things on my own. Yeah, I totally get that. I can be happy with my own company, or I can be happy with other people's company. Yeah, I can do both. And I'm not one of those people that if I'm on my own, then I just stay home and do nothing. Maybe it's different for ladies, but I know a lot of people won't go on holiday on their own, or won't even go to the pub on their own. Whereas I've travelled the world, most of the world anyway, and when I say travelled, I don't just mean that I've whizzed around on a cruise or something, or spent a week here or a week there. I mean, I've spent chunks of time living across 5 continents, and all the time I did that, I did it alone. Never did it with a friend, never did it as part of a couple. I might have had relationships where I ended up, like Robin in the States, or Lena in Ukraine, or Lingli or Leun, or that French bird who was in Africa. But the actual travelling bit, I always did that on my own, and never had a problem with it. Oh, I live near the Winking Man. If you don't know where that is, then look it up. And that's from Cheeseburger, and he mentioned the Winking Man before and said, oh, I can't be bothered to go back and find that out. Somebody tell me what the Winking Man is, because I can't look it up while I'm doing this. Well, I suppose I could, but it'd probably be rude or something. The Winking Man. I don't know, is it a landmark or something that I don't know about? I've genuinely never heard of the Winking Man. Da, da, da. Oh, rider, that's right, thank you. A rider, yes, that was the word I was looking for. And a hidden comment from Cheeseburger. Right, and we can see why that was a hidden comment. Oh dear. What's on Sean Ryder's rider? Well, we don't know. Oh, hello. Happy 420, says the Bigfoot Atheist Inquiry, which I'm assuming is that you, Joe? I assume that's you. I watch all of your Facebook posts with interest. When I saw that it's the eve of something, and you were celebrating the eve of something, but I don't know what 420 is. Again, somebody let me know. Is it something I should know? Is it something I was enjoyed when I was in the States, or no, I don't know. Oh, it has to do with marijuana. Oh, okay. I would know nothing about that then, because I don't know. How do we all feel about marijuana? How do we all feel about marijuana? Should it be legalized? Is it any worse than smoking or drinking, or I don't. You see, now I'm torn. I've had friends who were, what do you call them, potheads, Regular marijuana smokers. I've never done it. I had one puff when I was about, oh God, I don't know, somewhere in my 20s, and thought, oh no, that's definitely not for me. And gosh, I don't know. I mean, there's so much talk about the benefits of cannabis resin, and you know, it's becoming legalized in various places. I'm still of a mindset, and I might be wrong. I'm still of a mindset that that it can be a gateway drug, and I've certainly seen some of the effects of excessive marijuana use when I was working in the various psych-intensive care units. So I don't question that it raises paranoia levels, for example. But having said that, I'm also kind of open to the idea that, you know, when used reasonably, it can be a relatively harmless thing. You know, I take on board the points that people have made at various times that you never see football hooligans having fights because they're stoned, whereas they will often do it when they're pissed. So I don't know. I'm somewhat ambivalent still on the subject. It would never have been for me. As I've mentioned before, I've never gone down any drug route. I don't even like taking painkillers. Although that might be hypocritical given that I drink and smoke, I don't know. Now, when it comes to drug use like cocaine, or certainly anything more serious than that, then I have nothing to do, or to my knowledge, I've tried to have nothing to do with people. Whereas people who smoke marijuana, you know, some of my best friends, certainly my best friend, my best man, my compere, my co-vocalist, the lovely Rob Carling, he was a very regular marijuana smoker, you know, daily. And it never caused a problem. In fact, it was down to him that I had my one and only toke, as I believe it's called, and I can still remember it. It was when I just kind of broken through from doing the talent show circuit to actually becoming a professional vocalist, and headlining stuff. And we were all in two vans, and it was my first big show, and it was somewhere to the north of certainly where we were, and I was billed as headlining this show as my stage name. I don't think I've ever told you what my stage name was, and I'm not going to in case you Google it, but it was my stage name, the Voice of the Midlands. And unusually for me, I was actually a bit nervous. I don't do nervous. It's not really a thing. But I was a bit, and Robert just lit up a mahoosive spliff in the van and said, "Have a puff on this, it'll sort you out." And it bloody didn't. It really didn't. In fact, I was panicking. I mean, you know, he made them strong and he had the right stuff. He was a guy who lived in Birmingham, not in the best part, kind of well connected, bit of a tough guy. So he was always going to have the good stuff. And I had this puff on this thing. And then I just panicked my ass off all the way. that it wouldn't bloody well wear off before I was going on stage, and I had visions of, and I couldn't breathe properly. It affected my breathing. Now, whether that was psychosomatic or not, I don't know. But I'm sure I read somewhere or heard somewhere that it was a respiratory suppressant. But anyway, never did it again. But I'm not, you know, when it comes to marijuana, I guess I'm kind of live and let live. Not for me, but you crack on. And if you sparked one up, I wouldn't leave the room or tell you were doing something wrong or something like that. And of course, this CBD stuff now, whatever that is, I don't fully understand it. That seems to have remarkable effects on a variety of things. So I'm certainly not going to put the boot in and be anti that in any way, shape or form. I don't have the experience. Simon, it's come as no surprise to you that your missus is French. Oh, Trace is here and says buttocks. Trace, what day is it? Wednesday. You were live streaming tonight, weren't you? How did it go? Let us know. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah, I've seen you've been working a lot, Joe. I've seen you've been putting the old hours in. We kind of share the job now, believe it or not, because I'm doing quite a lot of that since we finally managed to get somebody in front of house. And as I've mentioned, that I always want Nepali people in front of house. I don't think it looks right having a European front of house in an Asian restaurant. And that's kind of freed me up quite a lot of the time. So rather than pay a driver, I've been doing it myself. And I understand that that is what you do, sir. So, yeah, we're both out there fighting the good fight and not getting tipped enough. Oh, are we on to Toyotas? I had a GR Yaris. Was fun. What's a GR Yaris? I mean, I know what a Yaris is. I just don't specifically know what a GR Yaris is. I've never owned a Yaris, but they were reputedly, I think, the best car in class, weren't they? For a long time. I saw the thing on Facebook, which amused me greatly. And I'm not going to be able to repeat it word for word, but it was something along the lines of that when you see like a 2002 Rover 25 or MGZR or whatever, you think, oh great, there's a modern classic that's surviving. But when you see a 2002 Yaris, it's doing 150 miles a night, 6 nights a week, delivering pizzas. And there is a bit of truth in that, isn't there? I'm amazed I haven't had more Toyotas, thinking about it. And I've been trying to rack my brains, and I really haven't. I think it's because my parents were Nissan people. So I kind of naturally went down a more Nissan route, as it were. Yeah, I passed my test in a Micra. Oh God, I did. Whose channel was it? I think it was James. And he reviewed a Toyota. Oh God, what was it called? Not a President, was it? That's the Nissan. Was it Century or something like that? I really enjoyed that. Certainly, I wouldn't have minded one of those. What were they called? The was it a Super Crown? The big posh barge of a Toyota in the like 70s, maybe in the 80s. They did the Crown, didn't they? And then didn't they do a Super Crown like just a more than version of it, something of that nature. Can't exactly remember. You replaced a Brooklands Capri, says GPS, incredulously. No, it was an earlier 2.8 injection, and it was an early one because it only had a 4-speed box, and I replaced that with that imported Supra. The Brooklands came along later on, and I only owned that for literally about 14 hours. And I was clutching my little tinkle with the amount of profit that I made on that. I made about, God, I can't remember exactly. I think I made 5 grand in like 14 hours. And that was when 5 grand, and I'm not joking now, I've just thought about this and that's weird, right? 5 grand would have bought you a Bentley Turbo R, MOT'd, looking fantastic. Or it would have bought you a really nice Shadow 2. So 5 grand was a handy chunk of change back then. And I thought I'd done pretty spectacularly buying a car on a Saturday night out of the local paper, buying it in the dark, driving it 110 miles the next morning on trade plates down to the showroom, whacking it on eBay and taking a 5 grand profit within 14 hours. It would have been as well. I bought it at about 8 o'clock at night on the Saturday, and it was sold and collected on the Sunday afternoon at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock. If any of you have done better than that, let me know. I'm trying to think if I have. I made really good money on my Lincoln Continental. I sold a Lincoln Continental. It wasn't my car. I brokered it. And I sold a Lincoln Continental Mark V Bill Blast limited edition. And I sold it to this guy for about, God, I can't remember. I think it was about, not massive money, 3 grand, 3.5 grand, something like that. And he came back, it must have been 4 or 5 years later, and I can't remember, I genuinely can't remember what the situation was. But he offered me the car, not as good as when I sold it, but MOT'd, running, and he offered me the car for, I'm sure it was 300 quid. And obviously I bought it. And this was towards the end of my, of having the dealership. And I drove it home from the dealership, junction 3 of the M42. Drove it home to the marital home up here, up in Chesterfield, literally just down the road there. Had a blast in it for about a week, and then sold it on. And I didn't make 5 grand, but it wasn't far off it. I can't remember why he sold it to me that cheaply. Oh, no, can't remember for the life of me. But there's the subject. What's your best flip? To use the current term. We never called it flipping cars when I was doing it. Toyota, says Cheeseburger. I've had a Carina E, Celica Mark 6 and a Paseo. Love the Paseo. I don't know what a Paseo is, or do I? Is that an import version of one of the trucks or something? Oh, it's not a Shogun, is it? That was a Pajero. And that's not even a Toyota, is it? That's a bloody Mitsubishi, you twat. Shut up. Where did I get to? Oh, Toyota Crown Estates, Land Cruiser, Space Cruiser, 1976 Toyota Celica TA40 ST coupe. Those have all dwelled within Jimmy Quinn's ownership. Oh, a Land Cruiser. Oh, I always had a hankering for a Land Cruiser. Never owned one, always went down the Range Rover route instead. But yeah, a Land Cruiser must be, my auntie had one. She had, weird thing. Now my auntie, unsurprisingly, was married to my uncle. And my uncle, God, Uncle Richard, he was a really good businessman. He was expert and ruthless. And he was one of these businessmen that made a fortune by bankrupting companies, which is the sort of thing that I could never do. I was never that ruthless. I was never that, oh, no, it just never sat right. I had opportunities to do it, but I never did. Anyway, Richard did, and they were very, very rich. They lived not that far from me in like a mansion. And Sue had lots of kids. Well, they both did, really, you know, joint efforts. And she had a Peugeot 505 8-seater estate that she loved and that she refused to get rid of. And she clung on to it forever and ever and ever, constantly having it repaired, rebuilt, restored, long after its sell-by date, especially because she was using it as her daily thrasher, you know, the kids' taxi. And when she eventually replaced it, she replaced it with a Land Cruiser. I drove a Carina for work a few times, and I dated a girl called Carina, and they were both comfortable, says Matt. Oh, Joe's off. Old friend calling. The pub, says Simone. What's that? I go to the pub on my own, says Cheeseburger. Concerts on my own. Football on my own. It's no biggie for me. I appreciate everyone's different, though. Oh, apparently I am close. I think that's something to do with the winking man. Never tried weed at all, says Cheeseburger. Oh, interesting, Matt. Matt used marijuana instead of codeine after knee surgery. Cannabis-infused coconut oil is great. It can be used in cooking or just as a topical oil for pain relief. All right. Okay. Right, that's an interesting point. Again, Matt, he says, sadly, it's easy to get cannabis, so substance abusers tend to give it a bad name. Oh, okay. I take that point. So you're kind of saying that because it's the most accessible thing of that type, that in inverted commas, the wrong sort of people will use it because it's more accessible than their thing that would actually be a first choice. All right, take that on board. Oh, here we go. The Winking Man. The Winking Man pub takes its name from a small outcrop of rocks going towards Leek called Ramshaw's Rocks, where a face shape in the rock seems to wink at you when you drive up the hill towards the pub. Okay. I've never heard of that. And I never drive in that direction. I don't know why. I just never have. Apart from right back in the day when we were going to Alton Towers. And I know there is some interesting stuff down that way. I ought to venture down that way. Maybe that's something I should do this year. And Cheeseburger tells me that I'm wrong about drugs at football. My team has a big fan culture of coke at away games, and it is a problem. Okay. Stephen S. Paul is with us. Good evening, sir. Udge doesn't have any strong opinions about marijuana, but I think it smells horrible. Well, that's a strong opinion, isn't it? And Simone says, I used to dabble in weed, but these days it blooming stinks. Ah, Pingu, interesting. My best friend got extremely paranoid from puffing and ended up being sectioned and messed up ever since. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. because I nursed a few people in that situation in the PICU. That was God, that was a really eye-opening experience. I genuinely, I think I've told you before, I've been around mental health all of my adult life, because it was my mother's thing. She involved me, she used to use me as largely unpaid labour. So I was actually qualified and experienced. And when I first moved up here and first sold the businesses, and was just, casting about for stuff to do, when I very first moved up here, I signed up with a nursing agency based in Chesterfield, and I went on permanent secondment to the PICU, to the Psychiatric Intensive Care Unit in the, I can't remember the name of the wing, but at the Chesterfield Royal. And I'd not been in that particular environment before, and it was utterly shocking. It genuinely was shocking. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before. It ended kind of, I had to leave. I had to leave in the end. They wanted me to take on an actual job there rather than going through the agency. Obviously, it would be cheaper for them. And there was no way on earth that I could have done it, having seen what I'd seen. If you hadn't guessed, the problem was the staff. Yeah, so I left. And I know I've told you this before, but I'll mention it again. On my very last shift, the worst of the staff, an ex-police, horrendous, perverted bully. When I hadn't, when it was my last shift and I had the next thing lined up, I knew what I was doing. So I literally had nothing to lose. I kicked the fucking bejesus out of him on the car park. Oh dear. Kevin Turvey, the voice of the Midlands. Bloody hell. Kevin Turvey, Rick Mayall's early character, based in Woodrow in Redditch, wasn't it, Cheeseburger? Oh, okay. The live stream went fine, says Trace. Mick is recovered from his lung infection enough to join me. Oh, good. Glad to hear that. Glad Mick is on the mend. My foxes arrived for his supper and woken up the cat, says Cheeseburger. Oh, dear. Ah, right. Yeah. Ooh. Sorry about that, Cheeseburger. Yeah. Diddly-doo. Ah, Matt says, car dealer I work for got a Daewoo Nexia for 200 quid. Sold it the next day for over 1,800 quid after I'd valeted it. I've never sold a car for a profit, says Cheeseburger. The worst thing I ever did was buy my first new car on finance. Once you have a new car, that's all you want. I've lost a king's ransom over the years. I have never, ever owned a brand new car. Never, ever. And I never would. Even if I was as rich as Croesus, it would pain me just driving out of the showroom and losing that initial, what is it now, 20%? You lose the VAT, don't you? As soon as you drive out the showroom, you lose the VAT. I've never even had a nearly new car. I think the newest car I've ever owned, I could be wrong, but I think the newest car I've ever owned was my Ferrari 355. And that would have been about 5 years old. Oh, Black Lines, I totally get this. I struggle to sell cars. I get attached to them, so I just buy more. That's what if I had the money, I'd never sell a car. I would never ever sell a car. I would just collate them and die amongst them. Breaks my heart to part with a car. I never planned to do it. Oh, okay. A Passeo is a UK car, says Cheeseburger. Smaller than an MR2 with a 1600 lump. Sold well in the USA, but not the UK. A Toyota sports car for those who can't afford an MOT. God, what was that little thing? Oh, I thought I knew it then, but I don't. That was a Serra. Was it a Serra with the not gull wing doors, but the flippy uppy doors? Oh God! And do you remember the Nissan? Was it the 100 NX? A like pseudo small sports car with the roof panels. It was the slowest thing on God's earth, although not as slow as a Nissan Serena, which was the slowest thing on God's earth. Oh, bug off, Matt. Don't suppose anyone has any POL photos or stories to share. Oh, awesome. Where are you, Simone? Simone was given a rare, and they are bloody rare, driver's side cup holder at POL for the 75. And the newest car I own, says Black Lines, was a 2000 on a W, Fiat Bravo HGT, that I had in 2004 with 23k on the clock, and I ran it until 90k in a head gasket failure. Loved that little thing. Oh, okay. 100 NX, same market as a Passeo. Your description isn't wrong. I'll tell you what, my loves, I'm going to call it a day at that, I think. So start saying your goodbyes. We've all got homes to go to. We've all got things to do. And I've got a couple of things that I actually need to do before I fall asleep. And I'm really tired tonight. Much more tired than usual. Oh, you're fed up about POL, Jimmy Quinn? Because I was up at the crack of dawn this morning. And I was amazed I was up at the crack of dawn this morning. And I thought, oh, this feels all wrong. What's going on? And what it was, I didn't realise until I came downstairs. I must have been really tired last night. And I had my supper and everything. And I was watching some, I was watching Hubnut, actually. I finally got round to watching the episode where he delivered that car. And he didn't give all the profit away. He gave 200 quid. Well, he said he's going to give 200 quid to a charity of his choice out of the profit. Should be the choice of the person who gave him the car, you would have thought, but apparently not. Anyway, I went to bed having consumed far less than my normal quota of wine. I was obviously just tired. And that meant that I was up super early, my body reacting to the shock of sobriety, I suppose. And I kind of embraced it, so I just got up and I've been really proactive and productive today, but it means that I'm really tired now. I did crash a Nissan Primera that was only a few years old while I was visiting a girlfriend. Oh, fell asleep on the M8 up in Glasgow and hit the guardrail, and that woke me up for sure. I've never done that, but I have come close. There have been more than one occasion where I've been motorway driving and I'm literally fighting to keep my eyes open, almost to the point where I'm actually doing that, opening the window. And I've done the same on each occasion, and it really does work. Limp along on the inside lane, being as careful as you can, to the next services, pull off, and just have a 5-minute power nap. Just even if you don't sleep, just close your eyes, recline, totally rest for 5 minutes, then get up and have a good walk about and a breath of fresh air. Cup of coffee or something if you fancy it. And every time I've done that, it's got me home without too much of a problem. But, you know, I can imagine that if you tried to drive through that when your eyes are literally closing on you and you're losing that, you know, I mean, maybe not everybody gets that awareness. Maybe it just hits you when you actually fall asleep. Yeah, scary stuff. Is it curry supper for supper, says GPS? No, I mentioned earlier. Right. Tonight, and we've all had this, we all made it, we made at work a Nepali version of what I guess you would call a chow mein, which, as I said earlier, is just, chow mein means fried noodles. So, I went and I bought a load of noodles from Sainsbury's, and yeah, and we made this. So that's our own marinated tikka chicken with onion, red onion, peppers, and then a blend of light and dark soy for the Chinese bit, a little bit of Chinese salt for the authentic Chinese kind of food taste, but with our own Nepali herbs and, well, actually there weren't any herbs in there, spices. There's spice in there. This is a spicy thing. And I'm really looking forward to trying that. I had, we all had a taste at work, and a couple of people actually ate theirs at work. The rest of us took it home because we're a bit more civilized. It tasted really, really good. So I declared tonight that Wednesday will be our official noodle day, and we will keep refining it until we make the perfect dish. Now, like I said, I tried that at the restaurant, and it's already better. When Chinese Madam was here, we ate Chinese noodles a lot. She cooked them, I cooked them, but also her friend at the Chinese restaurant, we ate there, and we ate in Chinatown in Sheffield. And already, at a first attempt, I promise you, these are better than any Chinese noodles you'll try. But I reckon we can refine it even more. I think to a little bit more of a nod to the Chinese, I'd like to put bean sprouts in there, and maybe some bamboo shoots. I think that would work quite well. But yeah, so that's going to be a thing. It's going to be Noodle Wednesday. Right, okay. I think we've all said good night-ish, haven't we? I will play you out, my darlings. Thank you so much for your company, as always. Very grateful. Oh, I've got to, oh God, here we go. Got to try and find it now, haven't I? I'll see you tomorrow night. There we go. There we go, darlings. Now listen, you take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, have a safe and peaceful night, stay warm, have a great day tomorrow. See you tomorrow night.